I said, wow. Hi, and she replied, hi, Michael. Al Pacino went from being a movie star to being broke in a day when his trusted money man stole $50 million in a huge scam. At age 84, he spends $400,000 a year gardening for empty homes, plays embarrassing roles just to stay alive, and helps out a girlfriend who's 29 and seeing other men. It took a lot of work to bring the actor who played the Godfather back to life after he passed out during COVID. This is the shocking true story of how a beautiful Hollywood star lost her fame. Alfredo James Pacino was born on April 25, 1940, in his parents' home in East Harlem, New York City. That's what people call him. He was born to Rose Pacino and Salvatore Pacino, who were both from Sicily. Born in San Fratello, Sicily, his dad moved to the United States with his family. His mom's family came from Corleone. In The Godfather, that name became well known, but for Pacino, it was just a part of his past. The two of them split up when he was only 2 years old. After his dad moved to California to work as a salesman, they had to start over in the South Bronx. It was hard to stay alive. He was raised by his grandparents, Kate and James Girardi, who moved in with them when he was a child. Strong grandma took care of the house and kept the family together. When you were young, life in the Bronx was hard every day. Pacino got into fights, skipped school, and when money was tight, he even stole food sometimes. He wanted to be a baseball player at first, but films became his escape over time. He only wanted to play when he was a teen. He often went to the theater with his mother. He never did well in school. It didn't look like school would help him get ahead. He went to Herman Ritter Junior High and then the High School of Performing Arts. English was the only subject he did well in. When he was 17, he stopped going to school. His mom was really sad. If he had a stable job, she thought he could take care of himself. When he refused, their fights got worse. He had to take care of himself after he finally left home. After that, he went through some of the worst years of his life. He worked as a cleaner, a busboy, a postal clerk, and the mailman, among other things. He slept on the streets or in friends' beds some nights because he had nowhere else to go. He also joined the wrong group of people. When he was 9 years old, he started to smoke and drink. He first smoked pot when he was 13 years old. Many of his best friends got hooked on drugs, and 3 of them died from heroin abuse. Pacino knew what would happen if he didn't pay attention. He was determined not to end up the same way. He went to the actor's studio several times but was turned down each time. He didn't give up. Instead, he joined HB Studio, which is where he met Charlie Lawton. He put in a lot of mental work to learn how to do method acting from Lawton. Pacino gave his skill his all, day and night. They still had money problems, though. He slept on the stage of the theater where he was practicing one night. That was followed by bad things in 1962. His mom died at the age of 43 from using drugs too much. Not long after that, his grandfather also passed away. It was terrible to lose. When Pacino got depressed, it was hard for him to keep going. He had to borrow money just to eat sometimes because he didn't have a place to live. But he didn't want to give up his dream. When he was 23, he finally got into the actor's studio. The person who taught him acting is one of the most important teachers in history. Stroberg taught him to have faith in himself and give each part a real feel. He found his place in the world after a long time. In 1968, things got better for him. People in the movie business and theater critics became interested in him after getting a part in the off-Broadway play The Indian Wants the Bronx. The show got him an Obie Award and opened doors he hadn't thought were possible before. People were finally paying attention to him after years of hard work. Pacino once said about his past, "I knew I was this wandering kid, but when the chance came, all I had to do was be there." Everything that had gone wrong, every hard time, and every night spent on the streets had led him to this point. He got his start in Hollywood with a small but important role in the movie Me, Nuttally, which came out in 1969. Hattie Duke plays a young woman in Greenwich Village who is trying to figure out her life. The movie was directed by Fred Coe. Pacino had a small part in the movie, but it was his first time acting in a movie. At the time, though, no one knew who he was. He lived in Greenwich Village and went to the Herbert Berghof studio to learn how to act with Charlie Lawton. In the beginning of that year, he won a Tony Award for his part in Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie? The fact that he did so well in that play shows how much he loved playing. That wasn't how Hollywood was, though. It didn't make a lot of money, but Me Natalie did make $1.9 million at the box office in the USS and Canada. Even more important, Pacino had never been in front of a film camera before. It was a small but important step. After 2 years in 1971, he got his first lead role in The Panic in Needle Park. The job at hand was a lot harder. Jerry Schatzberg directed the movie, which showed drug abuse in New York City in a dark and honest way. Bobby was played by Pacino. He is a small-time con artist whose life gets worse. Helen, Bobby's girlfriend, was played by Kitty Wynn. J.G. Dunn and Joan Didion wrote the story, which was based on a book by James Mills. It was honest about everything. It told the truth about how bad drug abuse really is. Page gave Bobby a rough energy that made him both fascinating and very upset. The reviews were great, and many people said it was one of the most realistic films ever made about addiction. People really liked the movie, even though it didn't do well at the box office. Al Pacino's work really stood out, even though Kitty Wynn won Best Actress at Cannes. When director Francis Ford Coppola saw it, his life would never be the same again. Coppola was beginning to make The Godfather 1972, and it was coming together. Paramount wanted the actor who played Michael Corleone to be a well-known star. They thought about Jack Nicholson and Robert Redford, but Coppola saw something in Pacino that no one else did. They didn't like Pacino because they thought he was too short and not well known enough. Coppola was not going to give up. He thought Pacino had the calm energy Michael needed to change from someone he didn't want to be around to a mean crime boss. He had a hard time during the first week of filming. He almost lost the part. People in charge were not happy. In their view, he wasn't doing enough in his job. To keep him, she had to fight. Then there's the restaurant scene where Michael kills Sollozzo and McCluskey. It was a big deal. Because Pacino played that part so well, everything changed. Coppola was right from the start. The company finally got it. When it came out on March 15, 1972, The Godfather was a big hit right away. With only $6 million, it made more than $250 million around the world. People will always remember what Pacino did. In the race for Best Supporting Actor, he was up against James Caan and Robert Duvall. He wasn't the winner, but the fact that he was even nominated showed that he wasn't just a play prop. He was well known in Hollywood. 2 years after The Godfather Part 1 came out, in 1974, he came back for it. In this case, the movie told two stories at the same time: the present-day rise of Michael Corleone to power and Robert De Niro's childhood as Michael's father, Vito Corleone. Michael wasn't a stranger anymore. He was now in charge of the family, and Pacino's acting showed how his life had changed after he became rich. He felt less friendly, mean, and alone. Some critics said it was one of the best roles ever. The movie won 6 Oscars, including Best Picture. It was Art Carney who won the award for Best Actor, not Pacino. That being said, he won the BAFTA for Best Actor, which meant that everyone in the world knew how good he was. Pacino was also in Serpico, 1973, a movie that came out in between the Godfather movies. It was based on the true story of NYPD officer Frank Serpico, who showed that the police were corrupt. Sidney Lumet was in charge of making it. In this role, Pacino was able to show a different side of his acting. His act wasn't to be a thief or a bad guy. He played a man who was up against a dishonest system. It was really fun to watch his show. The anger and frustration he showed on screen felt real because he had put so much into the role. He was up for Best Actor at the Oscars again. Next was Sidney Lumet's 1975 movie Dog Day Afternoon. A different one. Pacino played Sonny Wurtzik in this movie. He is a thief who robs a bank to pay for surgery to transgender his partner. The story was based on real events, and Pacino gave the part a lot of life and force. He walked out of the bank and yelled "Attica" at the police, referring to the riots in the Attica jail in 1971. This was one of the most famous scenes in the movie. That scene was made up on the spot. Many people saw the movie and thought it was good. Pacino was nominated for another Oscar. Al Pacino was the biggest star in Hollywood in the early 1970s. With parts in The Godfather, Serpico, and Dog Day Afternoon, he became one of the most famous actors in the business, but things started to go badly in the late 1970s. He made his first big mistake with Bobby Deerfield in 1977. Pollack directed the Love movie, which was meant to show a different side of Pacino. It turned out to be one of his worst choices. It was seen by many and thought it was slow and dull. A few people even booed during shows. Some bad things were said about it too. In a review, it was called trash that should have gone straight to video, which was pretty harsh since home video wasn't even around yet. He was still having trouble with cruising in 1980. The movie was about a police officer who went undercover in New York's secret gay leather scene to find a serial killer. A lot of people didn't like it from the start. At protests while the movie was being made, activists blew air horns, tripped over mirrors, and made so much noise that a lot of the speech had to be re-recorded. Things went from bad to worse after the movie came out. A lot of people thought it was not fair. Some people didn't like how the story didn't have a clear ending. People who didn't like it called it unclear and vague. After many years, in his 2024 book Sonny Boy, Pacino wrote that he felt bad about making the movie and wouldn't support it. His job was giving him trouble. But in 1983, he came back in a way that not many actors have ever done. What Scarface did was mean, out of control, and not like anything he had ever done before. To play Tony Montana was a huge risk. He wasn't going to direct because he didn't agree with the script, but Sidney Lumet did. Oliver Stone wrote the script while he was having problems with cocaine abuse, which made the movie even more intense. People didn't like it when it came out. A lot of people thought it was angry and over the top, but not everyone in the crowd felt the same way. Many people were a part of Tony Montana's rise and fall. The movie made $66 million around the world, even though it only cost $25 million to make. People made a big deal out of it over time. There were effects on people outside of Hollywood, from the line "Say hello to my little friend." Hip-hop artists liked the movie. Pacino had once again proven that he was one of the best. Just when it looked like his job was getting better, things went wrong again. Revolution was a movie about the American Revolution that came out in 1985. It cost $28 million to make, but only $358,574 was made from it. It wasn't liked by many. A lot of people laughed at Pacino's accent. The movie didn't do well at all, so he left Hollywood for 4 years. He came back in 1989 with Sea of Love, a good song that made people remember how good he was. But he didn't really come back until 1992. When Scent of a Woman came out, everything changed. It was about Frank Slade, an angry and blind former soldier who becomes close with a young student. Martin Brest directed it. It was hard to play the part. Sometimes Slade was angry and hard to guess, but he was also kind. The performance set the stage for a powerful speech in court that shocked everyone there. There were 8 times that Pacino was up for an Oscar, but he never won. This time he finally won the Oscar for Best Actor. It brought in $134. It spent $31 million and made $11 million around the world. It won several Golden Globes. The world knew him as one of the best artists for many years. Behind all the fame, he was going in a direction that would ruin his money and cost him everything. He put $50 million into a Ponzi scheme and lost it all. He also bought things worth millions of dollars that he never used and had to do awful things just to stay alive. The person Pacino put his trust in the most lied to him. Some of Hollywood's biggest stars hired him to help them with their money, and he did it. It was safe for Pacino to think about his money. He gave Starr full control over his money. Besides that, he let him sign checks for him. For years, Starr pretended that everything was fine. He was really running a Ponzi scheme by moving money around in accounts and using well-known funds to make money for himself. He had lost all of his money by the time the truth came out in 2010. That same year, Starr was found guilty. He got 7.5 years in prison. That didn't make Pacino rich again, though. When the Star found out what had happened, he wrote about it after the fact. He had $50 million one day. The next day he had nothing. He lost money in more than one way, not just through the Ponzi scheme. Pacino spent so much cash that not even his huge wealth could support him. He paid $400,000 a year for someone to take care of the garden at a house he never lived in. As prices have gone up, that much would now be worth about $900,000. Oh, and he learned that he had to pay for 16 cars. He had 23 active cell phone lines, even though he only had 2 cars. He had no idea why these charges kept coming up. He had never thought about his money. He worked on his acting and let someone else handle the money. He believed that the money he was making would be enough to pay for everything. Taxes, lawyer fees, and agent payments were taking a big bite out of his huge paychecks, $10 million per movie. He also rented homes instead of buying them. He lived in nice homes and went on trips that cost a lot of money. He went to Europe once and spent a lot of money. A private Gulfstream jet and a whole floor at the Dorchester Hotel in London were just 2 of the things he did for other people. Things looked good at first, but then they stopped being good. He needed to move fast because he had lost all of his money. Fans were shocked to see him in that part. The comedy Jack and Jill, which came out in 2011, starred him. The movie made $149 million around the world, but critics didn't like it at all. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 3% grade. He won 2 Razzie Awards for Worst Supporting Actor and Worst Screen Couple for the way he played himself, which was way too much. Fans wanted to know why he played the part. It was clear he was poor. He could easily get money from Jack and Jill. The movie was said to have made him $5 million. It kept me alive. It didn't get him rich again, but it kept him going. Some people didn't like the movie, but it did open more doors. He was asked to be in ads by brands. Artists gave him new parts. He slowly got back on track with his earnings. He knew Jack and Jill wasn't the most proud thing about him, but it didn't bother him. He even said it was fun to work with Adam Sandler. 4 children were born to Al Pacino from 3 different marriages. He has never been married himself. His first child, Julie Marie, was born on October 16, 1989. He dated Pacino for a short time before they broke up. Jan Tarrant is her mother and an acting coach. In 2001, Pacino had twins. Their names were Anton and Olivia Rose. It had been more than 10 years since the first child. Of the 6 years that they were married, 6 were spent with Beverly D'Angelo. After that, something strange happened in 2023. Pacino had his 4th child when he was 83 years old. Romeo was born on June 15, 2023, to his girlfriend, Noor Alfallah, who is a film director. 54 years have passed since Alfallah was born. People soon talked a lot about them dating when they did in April 2022. Over the years, Pacino was linked to a number of famous women, including his godfather. Say hello to Diane Keaton as a co-star. Before they broke up after The Godfather Part 3, they dated on and off for years. Keaton once told Pacino that she loved him deeply and that he was the most interesting man she had ever met. Argentine actress Lucila Polak and Pacino were together for 10 years in the end. He had been with Martha Keller, Tuesday Weld, and other women before that. Pacino never thought that marriage would work for him even after all of these relationships. At one point he said it didn't feel right. But being a dad was different. He was always proud to be a dad, even though it was hard for him to do both his job and be a dad. He said in his autobiography Sonny Boy that he didn't always take care of his kids the way they needed when they were young. Things that Al Pacino has been through look and feel like they belong in one of his films. Some of them were really scary. Some things made him truly unique. All of them show something about his life that most people don't know. In the 1970s, The Godfather made him famous. Soon after, something happened that could have really gone either way. He drank for hours with Gene Hackman's brother Richard Hackman one night and was too drunk to drive home. A fangirl drove him around. In his state, he didn't think twice. He got in. At first, nothing seemed odd. He then saw that they were going the wrong way. They told him where they were going. Her words, "I'm kidnapping you," made him feel cold. Even though the alcohol was making him lose his temper, he knew what to do. He said he was going to leave. She didn't give up. You had to jump to get away. He was ready. He might have looked scared in her eyes.
She might have known he wouldn't give up easily. She gave up for no reason at all. She drove him home instead of taking him somewhere she didn't know. Many years later, in his autobiography Sonny Boy, Pacino wrote that growing up in the South Bronx had prepared him for times like these. He learned how to stay alive very quickly. The way he felt that night saved him. In 2020, almost 50 years after the event, he faced something even scarier. COVID-19 hit the world and Pacino was sick. The bug hurt him a lot, feeling hot and thirsty, then nothing. He passed out all of a sudden. His heart stopped beating. He wasn't there for a few scary minutes. The paramedics came dressed in their best. 6 of them and 2 doctors worked to bring him back. When he finally woke up, everyone around him was dressed in medical gear from head to toe. He said later that they looked like they were in a science fiction movie, but what he had just seen felt more real. People who make it through these kinds of scary situations often say they saw a bright light or felt someone there. That didn't bother Pacino at all. It felt like nothing, he said. You're here. You're not. You don't remember anything. You have nothing. What took place changed him. He thought about life, death, and what might happen next once more. After he got better, he said he would take better care of himself and spend more time with his son Roman. He knows that moment will stay with him forever, though. Before either of these near-death experiences, Pacino was already battling something that wouldn't let him rest. He had never been able to sleep well to begin with. He had trouble sleeping for many years. His mind kept going quickly. He would get lost in his thoughts at night and have trouble falling asleep for hours, some nights being tired one. But he was always tired and had a hard time falling asleep. By the time he was a big star, not getting enough sleep was making his daily life harder. He was often wide awake until dawn, which made him tired during the day. They all got stronger over time. Mood changes, loss of memory. There were times when being tired made things less clear. He even said he had dreams when things were the worst. There was a psychological movie called Insomnia that came out in 2002. He played a detective who wasn't getting enough sleep. It wasn't just act work for him. He had a lot of nights where he would lie awake and let his mind wander. Things got worse when I had money problems. A crooked accountant cost him a lot of money at one point. He had even more trouble sleeping because he was worried about money. He found ways to deal with the battle, but it never really ended. He was used to having trouble sleeping. He had to deal with some of the worst things in his life, though. No one could see the fight. A Hollywood star for decades, Al Pacino is one of the most well-known in the business, and fame brings attention. A lot of trouble has also been caused by some of the things he has done at work and in his personal life. When he was in the 1980 movie Cruising, it caused a lot of people to protest right away. People talked a lot about that part of his career. William Friedkin directed the movie, which starred Al Pacino as a police officer who posed as a gay club worker in New York City to catch a serial killer. On paper, it looked like a great crime story. In fact, it made a huge fuss. A lot of LGBTQ+ activists spoke out against the movie before it even came out because they thought it would help spread negative stereotypes. There were protests and people showed up to filming sites almost every day while the movie was being made. During takes, they chanted, waved signs, and made a lot of noise to make it clear that they didn't want this movie to show their town in a bad light. There was just as much anger when Cruising came out in theaters. Some people thought it was mean. A lot of people thought it made LGBTQ+ people look bad instead of showing who they are. Even Pacino said afterward that he felt bad about making the movie. He wrote in his autobiography Sonny Boy that he gave his whole paycheck to charity after seeing how the movie turned out, but he didn't say his name. He wanted to push himself as a performer. Instead, he became the center of a fight that wouldn't go away. After a few years, Pacino's personal life was the subject of yet another heated argument. It got a lot of attention right away that he was seeing Noor Al-Fallah, a woman 54 years younger than him. She gave birth to a boy in June 2023. His name is Roman Al-Fallah Pacino, but by October 2024 they were no longer seeing each other. But she wasn't gone from his life. Not at all. She stayed very close to him. It's not just their kid. People were curious about Alfala because she often hung out with older rich men like Mick Jagger and Clint Eastwood. Pacino's friends thought she might be taking advantage of him to make money. Some of what they were worried about was true. Court records show that Pacino was told to pay $110,000 up front and other costs, like $13,000 for a night nurse. He also had to pay $30,000 a month in child support. Besides that, he had to save $15,000 a year for their son's college fund. He clearly paid for Alfala to live a fancy life after they broke up, even after they were no longer together. She was also seen with other famous men at the same time, such as comedian Bill Maher. People said this made Pacino feel lied to. He still gave her money though. Friends said he loved her very much and thought he might even leave her a lot of money when he died. At first glance it looked like love was making these people less smart. Some people saw it as a story about what can go wrong in relationships when power isn't shared fairly. No one knew the truth, but the fact that Pacino was committed to Alfala despite the warnings and rumors kept people talking. It was clear that Al Pacino was still in the news at this point in his life, whether he was being ripped off or just trying to help his child's mother.